All right, what about this then? What's another
Okay.
team then? What's a team at the moment that's exciting? I'll tell you what, actually, Yank already opened the door. And Maniac, to be fair, we did talk about this a long time ago because we did that whole episode. I think it was like episode 2 or something, mate, where we speculated on the whole Liquid lineup. And the joke is that is literally the whole lineup that was always going to join and did in fact join. So it feels months ago now. Right, Yanko, you hinted at it there. Dude, I feel like this is weird because I don't know if it's like fatigue from everyone knowing the roster for months and months and months, but why is there not insane hype around this Liquid lineup? Because I'm with you, mate. When I saw this team and Zeus and all the factors, like beyond my one question mark really is like, will Skulls be good enough? Aside from that, I think this has like the makings of like a potential #1 team. Like this looks really fucking dynamic. This squad, mega powerful, all different roles. Where are you at on this?
I'm super high on Liquid as well, man, for a couple of reasons. First of all, just the lineup in itself feels very strong. Second reason is before they did their boot camp in Netherlands, Zeus and Skulls came for like 2 weeks earlier. They were in Belgrade at my boot camp, and just Zeus wanted him to come to play a bit of FPL and just sort of, get used to stuff. So we, went for dinner a couple of times. I got to talk to Skulls. We never really interacted that much outside of a little bit on Pro League in like post-game interviews and stuff. And he is like, for me, I mean, he blew me away in a sense of such a level-headed kid. I mean, guy, young player, right? Incredible mindset about how he needs to conduct himself to, succeed and go about his everyday, work and everything along those, like a really good balance of confidence and just understanding of he's the youngest player on the team. There's a lot to learn from. It's his first international team, but also not shying away of, I don't matter in this team. No one expects me to do anything. Like, I'm going to carry my own weight. I'm going to contribute to this team. English is more than good enough to be able to play on an international team too. So I'm always like very happy to see that in young players, right? Because it tells you we've turned a corner a little bit when it comes to the attitude of these players and how they come into a team, and their expectations are now managed in a sense of, hey, it's not only about how good I can click heads, like it's also about how I behave on a team, how I what my approach is to practice, both team and individual, and everything that goes along with it. So I have a lot of confidence in Skulls that he isn't going to be the problem in this Liquid lineup. Even when I spoke to Zeus, I told him, for me, there's like 2 really sort of threats to this lineup. One of them is, can Cadian do good enough on the op? And like I think he absolutely can on the calling and leadership and all that stuff. But when you have your Zywus, your Monacy, Sun Piuses on the other side, right? Yes. I don't think of it as a head-to-head duel. Just like, no. Can you match their output in terms of impact? That's one thing. And the other thing was, can you just make a Kinder just play the game? That's it. Just focus on being the individual player, not trying to like do all this calling. Just shut up and play the game, right? Because I feel like he's been trying to do too much in this Liquid lineup, right? A little bit, probably because I think he was a little bit arrogant. I feel like he got humbled with this last Liquid experience, and having someone like Cadian in there in Zeus, because you can't forget you have Twists in there, who's also a vocal guy, 2-time Intel Grand Slam winner, all the success that he had with FaZe. So, obviously also Nav has more experience than Yikinder. You could argue he's the 4th guy down on that list who, should be speaking up about shit. So those are the 2 things for me that are only a little bit, I want to see how they pan out. I think, someone could make the case firepower in a sense of how much will you get, will you get the Twist that is like sort of the star player? I think you have to. Will you get the Yikinder from VP in terms of his fragging? Like, you also need that a little bit, because if they all average out, that could be a problem against some of the teams. But outside of that, really like how they also started their tenure as a team with the boot camp and with the part of, the no PC part. I think that's really important when you have players that haven't really played together, outside of NAF and Twists. That's it. Pretty much it, right? Like, and so for everyone to sort of meet each other and to set out those goals and sort of a timeline of things. Obviously, for every new team, it's not going to be, win now, right? But there also needs to be an understanding, which they have, is win at some point. Like, this team is built to win titles. Like, if we don't do that, we're gonna make changes. So like being honest about that and laying out a sort of a blueprint, because man, when you have players, especially when you have experienced players and veteran players, like, you know, guys who've been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, like, it's a bit hard to get them to fucking be motivated for practice and like come in and be not just, you know, they're not gonna take it for granted, but I mean, they're not gonna fuck around, but you know, to get them to really engage in it and create a good atmosphere, right? I think that's why it's important for players to get along. They don't need to be brothers or best friends, but when you get into practice, it can't be like, oh fuck, like practice tomorrow again, or like this stuff again. Like, it needs to be fun for them, like engaging in some way. That's how you're going to get the most out of practice. And I think those boot camps and those conversations really help for you to bond a little bit more with your teammates and sort of have that feeling where it's like it's not that just you want to succeed, you want for them to succeed as well. Like, you want to do it all together, because no one loses on their own or wins on their own. You win and lose as a team, and creating that sort of culture and being on the same page. I think if you are aiming to be a contender team, I think it's crucial, because shit's always going to hit the fan. You're going to have Zaiwu win a fucking 1v4 at 10-10, you know, but you still have money for the next round. You have a bye, they have a bye. You were on a 4-round streak before that round happened. Like, is that round going to define you, or do you know who you are regardless of what happens? Like, there's so many good players who can pull off that stuff, that it's really important mentally that you're strong and that you're doing it as a team. And that's why all these things that Liquid is doing are a good sign. I'm not saying that's going to make them the best, you know, magically. And, you know, it still comes down to the stuff that's
a green flag though, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Come on, Maniac, where you at on this
There's
one? Are you hyped?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm hyped just because I think from an intellectual perspective, I'm so curious about what's going to go down, right? I think there's a whole lot to unpack in what Janko just said. I agree with the mega focus on creating a team with a capital T and more than just 5 players being here and there, just mixing out together. I do think they have, with Edward Clearon, of course, they have a good guy that's with them to helping them do that. But there are a few things that we have to touch on. First of all, Caden's leadership, I think everyone has to agree what he did with Heroic was commendable. Of course, there were a couple of stains here and there, but it was very commendable. But this could not be further apart from the heroic circumstances, what's happening here. This is the furthest apart possible. Like, literally, he went from a team of Danes that he pretty much controlled from A to Z to now putting together a mix, like a puzzle team, and having to recreate something from there. So there is still, to me, sort of a question mark. Not that I don't value him as a leader, I do, but there's a question mark to how he's going to fare in that regard. That's the first thing. The second one is, in this instance, shutting up Yekindar completely, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think he's never going to just shut up. I think he's always going to be a piece that will have a say and will make waves in a team. And one of the winning conditions for Liquid is going to be to integrate that in a way that is functional and that works. And you would think that VP did that for a while with James. It felt like they had found this sort of balance. He's going to have to do that with Caden. I don't think there's any world in which Yekinder's just going to be a pawn and play Counter-Strike. Back in the day,
you might not know this reference, but Janko probably knows about it, even though he wasn't there himself. Right, back in the day, at the very beginning of Counter-Strike, Sir Scoots, who actually used to be a player, if people don't know, and then after that had his own team in the very early days, there's a famous thing that there'll be a picture of this on the internet somewhere, where what he did is when he would go to the LANs, to the CPLs, he had a little baseball bat. It was called the Don't Peek bat, and he would like whack you, but jokingly, like after a round if you peeked, right? And the joke was, it was a way you like encourage people not to peek too much. The joke is, all they have to do with Zeus, because Zeus is very much more of an authoritarian himself, is just put an S in front and then take care of that for your kid. That's the Don't Speak bat. There you go. Just play the game. You are just a brainless entry. Yeah? Just do that, by the way. You got wicked crosshair control. Just entry people, but if you start talking too much, just bonk on the head. Yeah, there you go.
Just to clarify my point, like, I just meant he shouldn't focus on secondary calling, where, you know, like, you can talk like, yeah, you're playing this area of the map. Okay, this is how you want to attack it. It's your area of the map. But outside of that, leave it to Cadian and probably someone else. Just focus on being a player more so than having to contribute to leading the team.
I agree. I agree on that. Of course, he's never going to be just a mindless drone. That's for sure. Another point as well is that you have to think of Twist's perspective when he joined Liquid. Like it's official knowledge. It's out there knowledge that he had the possibility to go to Vitality.
Yes.
And because of what it would mean for him in terms of his position, his role in the structure, he said, nope, that's not the Counter-Strike I want to play. I want to call my own number. I think I can do more than that. And this is where I want to go. That in itself, although I do respect it, takes ego and it takes honesty to put it out there. I do respect that. That does tell me that there's going to be some level of individualism in how the game is looked at. Like, hey, I want my own shit. Brother, you signed me. You know what I want to be. I want to be a superstar.
Wait. Isn't that why he left Liquid for FaZe? Wasn't
that
now
you have to take me back? I don't really remember.
Wasn't that the exact some of the same exact
Something
reasoning?
similar,
was like he felt like he could do more on a
Yes.
team and didn't want to play second fiddle to Elysia anymore. So he goes to FaZe, and now he was in FaZe, and now what? He feels like he was neglected there too. I mean, what's the problem here, bro?
I mean, now in Liquid, arguably he might just be the one at the very top of the ladder, right? If Yakindar has had his humble pie, now technically, arguably, Twist is at the very top of the ladder. But my point is, what I'm bearing towards is that now you're Cadian, and not only do you have to obviously create a game plan from this ragtag team that you put together, but also you're going to have to deal with individuals all around who have their own mind, have their own say, have their own needs, and then you have to come up with something that's cohesive and for everybody. And I think that is going to be hugely challenging. The quality of the pieces individually, I think, is incredible. I have no doubt about Skulls in this role. I think I come in as a sort of a rookie where people are going to tend to you just a little bit. You say he's got the right mindset. I don't really worry too much. I think he's going to deliver. I think Naf is going to do what Naf has been doing most of his career, which is to be undervalued, not exactly listened to. Not that he's talking. I'm not saying he is and people don't listen to him, but I think he's going to keep doing what he does, and he could do even more. It's more the question of how is the Cadian, Yakindar, Twist triangle going to work out? Through wins, through losses, through periods of questioning about how do we play Counter-Strike. Now, if this triangle can actually find a healthy way to work out, which is why I love the idea of, brother, don't even play Counter-Strike for a while. Just talk. Like, make sure you're on the same wavelength. Make sure you want to play the same Counter-Strike. But I don't care. You can get on the computer a little bit later down the road. Because if this triangle works, I think this is already going to solve some of the issues that this team could have. And if that works out, then with the firepower, then yeah, you get me hyped. But I'm not just going to put that on the side and be like, that's a small problem. No, I think it is. It is an actual real challenge.
Okay. By the way, on the Skulls thing, I will say, obviously, I know Zeus, so I've actually been able to talk to him, and I kind of know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to. Right, first of all, he's not an idiot. This wasn't his, like, number one choice on the fucking whiteboard, you can imagine, Yanko. He had people like Elige, Kesara, like, he had the best players in the world. But the point was, when some of them either wouldn't join, some of them turned out or were vetoed and couldn't be allowed to join, when he went down the list, what he told me the selling point of this player is, like, obviously, first of all, he's Brazilian, so he has that connection. But he said, actually, one of the best things about him is that he's quite inexperienced. If people don't know, he's only really been playing like the lands we care about since like late 2022 or something. Like, he's not actually been to loads. And he actually said one of the positive things was that this guy hasn't been in a team with the old guard who, you know, the perception in the scene is they just do things the old way and they haven't sort of updated to the current formula of CS. So his perception was like they haven't sort of been tainted by that. They haven't been given the notion that you beat. Because here's the difference. If you play in a team with Fur now, it's not the end of the world if Fur like phones it in a bit. He's a legend already, boys, and won his majors and his MVPs. But if you're his teammate, you're not going to accomplish that necessarily if he doesn't go 100%. And you might also think, oh, this is what it's like to be in a top top team, right? We just, you know, we play when it's going well, and when it's not, we just say fuck it and go home. That, I think it's actually cool that this player's going to get his chance at tier 1 in like essentially a fresh environment. And by the way, from all the things I've heard about Cadian, sounds like a great IGL to be paired with, very positive figure. Zeus himself, someone who knows how to help people, grows a place. I think that's all great. I'm not that worried. It's more just, can he do it individually? I agree with you on the Twists angle though, because I mean, the first joke would be, holy shit, I knew Ziwu's cultural impact was bad, but even Cadian's is better. So Twists basically chose Cadian as his AWP over Ziwu. Well, case closed on that one. By the way, don't worry, I've got an ident for my channel that I'm going to use on my next video, where I actually have Apex just introduce my YouTube channel as I'm the biggest Ziwu hater in the world, which is like, I even told him that's really good, mate. I'm actually going to use that for real. Like, that's not even just a joke. That will be the intro for some of these videos. So there's that one. And then the more important thing to me is, though, I sort of agree with Maniac. I know where he's coming from, Yanko. I'll ask you this question this way. Do you actually think there's anything to that? Because essentially what Maniac's doing, as far as I can tell, is he's trying to intuit why would you pick Team Liquid, a bit more of an uncertain project, over like everyone who's joining Vitality feels like if you join, I mean, Z was the best player, you're probably going to win the tournament, like the next tournament even. Like, it's almost like the most guaranteed success you could have as a roster move right now if you're the player joining Vitality. So I know what Maniac means. I sort of had a similar thought, Yankov. Maybe the idea is when he goes back to Liquid, his old team that I'm sure is very happy to have him come back because of all the success he had without them, that maybe he does get to be top of the pecking order. Maybe he gets to call it where his roles are or what it's going to be. Whereas I got the sense part of why Carragher loves him is he was a lot more versatile in FaZe, and he kind of did sometimes take the backseat if it meant a Brokey or Rops needed those spots or that priority up the chain, as it were. Do you not think that's a factor? Is that something you're concerned about with Twists?
I'm not really concerned. I think Liquid as an org played a big part in his decision. I think that was his first big org. I think also Liquid, anyone you talk to, they treat their players and their staff great.
Oh, sure, yes.
Also, I think he was looking forward to working with Zeus, again, who was also his first coach back in those days. And yeah, probably a little bit of everything. I feel like, I guess for what I want to see is like, you think like Twist is but a star player and FaZe and whatnot, but you look at some of the positions, you know, he's playing like A on Nuke instead of playing Yard is the star role, but Rain was there. So Rain had some of those positions. So what I want to see now is like Twists have all those spots.
Just unleash him again, yeah?
If he gets that, then you understand that also that might have been an extra motivator for him to play in that role and do that. So with all of the above combined, right? Vitality is a set team. Like, you just need to fill this gap for them, right?
Yes.
And look what Mezzi is doing. I mean, he's playing anchor and all this stuff. Like, that's probably Twists. That wasn't too interesting for him because he's won, you know? Like, he's won 2 Grand Slams, a major. He has the accolades. So he doesn't have to, you know, he's not like a Robert Torrey who's just going to now go to a team and be that one piece and help a team win something. Like, he wants to see if he can do it as carrying the brunt of the load, right? And being the star player, which is legit. You know, I respect that. Like, it's a big challenge. It's a new thing. So guess we just have to wait and see how it pans out.
I will also say as well, if someone did see that obviously his numbers went down in FaZe to some degree as they got more and more successful, there's definitely more in the tank for Twists. Like, no, there's no way if you, like, he's one of those players where I'm not a big stats guy, but like if the stats are that low, but then you watch the game and your eyes look at how he aims, this player can definitely produce a lot more statistically. Like, he could be a star player. Like, his aim is still really crazy if you watch like a POV demo or something. Like, it's really, really crisp. So that suggests to me it's just what position are you in, what support, what resources do you have, how you set up, is there even the expectation that you're the one who's going to be the one who's going to get the frags, etc. If that's the case in this team, and by the way, why shouldn't it be? Because the one thing I will point to, if you look at this as like a super team, if people will take that angle, is it's one of the better super team constructions, mate. There's not really many people sort of stepping on each other's toes. Whereas on the Astralis one, I could see a world where there's overlap between Blame F and Stown, or does Device just get all the say and then Stown's even further down? The difference in this team is you look at it, if you make it work right, surely this team is just sort of, you leave Naf to do what he's doing, because why would you fuck with that at all? Cadian's role's pretty set too. It's just what's his calling style going to be? Skulls, we assume's part of the aggro rifling with your Kindar, and then Twist gets to be somewhere in the middle. It sounds to me like it doesn't everyone sort of got what they want. I feel like this is also one where it's not like we're going to all have to agree on some fucked up solution, like, well, I'll compromise this, and you couldn't. It's more just sort of like, right, well, if we agree, we take these positions. If it fits together, it works as far as I can tell. It's why I actually, even though normally I thought I'd learned my lesson, which is if you make a roster where it's not an existing core you add like one player or two players to. I was trying not to make big predictions because sometimes they can fail. But I feel like of all the sort of almost made from nothing rosters, this just looks really good from the start. Like Zeus, I think's killed it. He's did a great off-season. And even the fact that despite all those months of it being rumoured, notice no one was able to take any of the players. I've heard, by the way, there was people in there trying to sign the Twists and certain other players into but they just couldn't get them. So fair play. I also get the sense, by the way, that implies everyone believes in the project. Like they all did come together months later and all signed, and they've all done it. And those videos, I don't think they're faking it, guys. They're not actors. I think they actually all genuinely all really positive about the project. Everyone.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and
ultimately the question is when it comes to Twists is no doubt a very good player. Can he prove that he's an elite player?
Yes.
That's all it comes down to. And it's hard to say whether he will succeed or not, because when you're not put in a position to be that, it's hard to know whether a guy can pull it off or not. And ultimately, I think that's what we'll get to see in this Liquid lineup.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.